track. Unlearned Unlimited. Unlearned Unlimited.
Hello, welcome to the Unlearned Unlimited podcast. My name is Dr. Cito Narcisse, and I have my special guest co-host.
My name is Dr. Andres Randolph, and I'm excited today about this little podcast we got going on.
Absolutely. We're super excited. Live from Tampa, we have Jerry Bell. Jerry Bell is a former NFL player that played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but now an outstanding community leader, has done great work at the university level and also in the community. So super excited to have him on the Unlimited Unlearned podcast. As we tell everybody all the time, Unlimited Unlearned podcast, we always focus on what are the things that you need to unlearn, which means that things that you got learned in a textbook or something, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not how the real world works. And then Unlimited is about the possibilities, which are the things that happen in life, about how you problem solve with solutions, those things. And we're super excited that Jerry has taken time to do that because he's been very successful in a lot of different spaces, also in different life experiences, specifically working with communities and helping to impact children across the entire country. So how you doing, Jerry? Welcome to the podcast.
I am doing fine, and thank you. Welcome to you guys. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Usually in the shows, what we usually do is we used to have this document that we would start sharing people's bio and all that stuff. But we learned that the best people that could tell you about a bio is themselves. So we go automatically to the person and say, hey, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what people don't know about you. You know, some real things outside of what's on the paper, right? Everybody knows you played.
Or on Wikipedia. He has a whole Wikipedia page.
Everybody got all that, right? But the big thing for us is like, you know, we want to know, people really need to know you. I mean, and be unfiltered on, you know, just tell us what your truth is. You've done a lot of great things. And so we'd love to hear about that. So tell us a little bit about Jerry.
Well, Jerry is from a family of 8 or 6 kids from Northern California. Richmond is the city.
Ah, Richmond. Okay.
Yeah, grew up in a household that had a lot of discipline and a lot of love. You know, throughout my younger ages, participated in a lot of different things, from being kind of talented on the music side, playing instruments, right? And then also involved community work when I was younger. Graduated from high school. Went to Arizona State University.
ASU, okay.
Yeah. I had an athletic scholarship, and I played football there for 4 years. Got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 3rd round.
Go Bucks.
And played with them for 5 seasons, and then went to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the most, I guess I didn't skip over that one. Back when I was in college, I did meet this woman by the name of Ruth.
Yes.
That I've been married to since that day. So, well, not that day, but since then.
He married her as soon as he saw her walk through that door. I know you did.
You know, Jerry, you could be as straight up as possible with us.
Okay, good deal. So I went to work after playing football. I got my master's degree in business from the University of Tampa here.
Okay.
Went to work at IBM, worked in the IT space for many, many years, and ended up retiring from that. I don't know, about 6-7 years ago, maybe. It kind of just happened, you know? I don't know how that just happens, but it happened. And so now I've been just kind of taking the time. I've got a new grandson, so that's been a pleasure in my life right now. And, you know, and then throughout the years, right, been volunteering and doing some community work. And it's kind of based on, you know, I think how I am and how I was raised, and that, you know, I participated in a lot of different charities, charitable work, charity events that are associated with kids. Whether it be the younger ones or college students. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about some of that. Yeah. But I've been involved there, stayed involved to this day, and will probably be involved until.
So you talked a little bit, Jerry. I just want to say, for anyone watching, I do not say this lightly. Gerard Alfred Bell, he hates when I say his entire name, was a blessing in my life, along with Ruth Duncan Bell. So I love their story, and I love their passion and commitment. And you talked a little bit, not only about your family background coming from in totality, there were 6 siblings at home. But you talked about getting a scholarship to ASU, Arizona State University. But there's a particular part of your story when you met your future wife, whom you married right there and then in your mind. When you came back from, I believe was it your freshman year or your sophomore year, you both realized something. And I think that's what sparked your wanting or your desire to give back. Can you talk a little bit about that? Can you share that for our listeners?
Yeah, I think people take for granted some things, right? And one of the things that when we came back every semester, somebody wasn't there, right? Whether it be a fraternity brother or a friend of ours. And we'd ask the questions, well, where's so-and-so? Where did Debbie go? Where's James? And we found out that based on financials, one guy owed $142 for books and they couldn't get accepted back in this semester. So we kind of told ourselves, if we ever get in position to do something to prevent things like that from happening, that we would. And that's kind of what drove us to start our first endowment here at the University of South Florida, and then continue to do some of the things that we've done along those lines.
Tell me, so you mentioned quickly, I was just going to add, you mentioned quickly about you were influenced early around community partnerships, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, we always talk about what are the things that you unlearned, right? I mean, there's stuff they tell you about with certain things, but you find out how this thing really works later on. What was the early thing that you learned about community partnerships that was that you figured that you experienced that was true, and then things you're like, wait a minute, what they taught me was wrong about this?
Well, the first thing I know that it's complicated. Right? It's just like a relationship, right? I mean, there needs to be the communication and the truthfulness and the dedication and the passion associated with what's going on. But you also need to have identified what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I think a lot of times you get into people having agendas, which isn't the same, right? I mean, you look at, for instance, the public school system and some of the issues and concerns they have with graduation rates for African-American students, resources, things of this nature that aren't available at certain schools. So you have a partnership with your community. You come in and you identify these things, right? You understand what it is, then you put together a plan, but you're not just sitting there as a, say, token per se, because, hey, we've got a problem, let's fix it, and nothing happens. So it's the accountability associated with it too. I think it's not just as simple as saying, here's a group, here's 2 groups, here's what they want to do, put them together and go get it done. And when you talk about learning or unlearning, I look at that from a standpoint, you learn through reading or through books or through things like that, or you learn through experiences, right? So for instance, think about an example of unlearning racism. How do you do that? Right? You can learn it, you can read about it, or you can experience it. What's going to cause you the most damage? Just the experience aspect.
That's right.
So understanding I can give you a book that says, there's a book that says there's racism and it exists. Here's a book that says it's not right. That doesn't heal the problem.
That's right.
The problem that it's still out there and it needs to be addressed with a serious approach to it. So, it's the community partnership and how they're involved, I think, has a lot to do with the intent and the purpose and the truthfulness and all the above, right?
Again, he's dropping gems because he's experienced, but also your early experience of seeing friends or fraternity brothers or just colleagues not being able to achieve a goal because of a limitation really left an indelible impact in how you and your family have chosen to move about, right? You understand the importance of education, for example, and have chosen to use your platform, use your level of influence to be able to make a difference, right? I think
So first of all, I do want to correct you on something.
I love it.
Fraternity brothers. No, we all accomplished everything and none of us failed in anything. So it's not fraternity.
Well, there goes a Kappa Alpha Psi.
I appreciate you making that clarity. They don't understand you with the 10 founders or dreamers,
But joking aside, yeah, it's a lot of what I think I am has to do with how I was raised,
Mm-hmm.
how my
Mhm.
parents
Mm-hmm.
taught us to love and cherish people and each other and take care of each other. And I look at each one of the members of my family to this day, and they do just that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's the most caring set of siblings I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think that pushes off into everything that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, right down to, and where does that come from, right? I look at the parents from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of somebody who may not have that sort of background, it's the community that can do that. It's an individual
Mhm.
mentor, it's a coach, it's somebody. But I think you're taught that, if you want to, teach people to do some good things, that's, drill it in them. And if it's how they're raised and how they're brought up, those things will continue as you get to high school, college, pros, retired, whatever.
Mhm.
You'll still, if you've got the passion to do good things, um, I think you'll continue to do just that. And
Yeah. Jerry, so you talked about being in the NFL when they wore, what was the colors that y'all wore again back then in the day?
orange and white.
Yeah.
Not
Jerry played at a time where I wasn't born. So just kidding. Okay, maybe
this,
just
this is to cover the shade, right? But go ahead.
You
Go
talked
ahead.
about, really, you had an incredible career on and off the field. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was that transition? You mentioned you went to the University of Tampa for a master's, which great for you. But then you chose to invest in the University of South Florida with an endowment. I was privileged to work with you, not at that time. I was privileged to work with you later on other programs. But tell me, how did you leverage your platform and your network and the community around you, right, to support a scholarship program for first generation underrepresented students when that wasn't, you were the first at the University of South Florida to do that, right? And you should grin and really be proud of that because you really had a vision that later on, 20 years later, you and I got to work on something incredible that was life-changing. But tell me, what was it like to switch your mindset from off the field and working, leveraging your platform or your influence to really engage the community to support you in that endeavor or the future endeavors in relation to helping students?
Yeah, there's that understanding of people that I think comes with being a bit humble, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I think that comes from the upbringing aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am, an NFL player, and I walk into a building, everybody looks and stares, everybody wants to be a part of you, they want
Mhm.
autographs, they look up to you. And when kids come and they look at you and they look at you in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
you can either be Mr. A-hole
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and ignore them and walk away, or you can sit down, take a minute, sign an autograph, and talk to them, right?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
when you do that and you look at their faces and you see how you're impacting them, they're focusing and paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, they also feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do something along those lines, and then all of a sudden now you've got their attention. Let's see what they're doing. Doug Williams was quarterback, right? He used to
Mhm.
play with the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
That I was with him one time when we were on strike at the time, but we were at the mall, right? And some kids. So this was like a Tuesday at 11:30 in the morning. We were going to lunch or so. Kids walked up and they were like, "Oh, Mr. Williams, can I have your autograph?" He says, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?"
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So he signs the autograph. He tells them, "You need to get to, don't skip school, whatever." But it was an opportunity to give a lesson, and he did that. Whenever the door opens and get a chance to do something like that, I do. Right?
Mhm.
I did it from a standpoint of football camps. I gave a football camp for kids in the Boys and Girls Club who didn't get a chance to go to the other football camps
Yep.
that had to pay. They came, had an overnight, and they ended up having more former players there than they did at the other camps.
Mm-hmm.
But it was because I wanted to give them the opportunity to experience what other kids are, make them feel special, and understand that somebody's looking out for them. Somebody wants to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Did the same thing with, SAT scores for some of the students that they were getting athletic scholarships to go play somewhere, but the coach says they can't pass the SAT. Well, let's work on it, right? So I helped them, did our scholarship, did the Black Leadership Network. It just kept going and kept building and got bigger and bigger. But I think it all came down to understanding that I could make an impact
Mhm.
based on what I did. right? And what I did was play football. That's a game. Right? I mean, it's on a professional level, but it's a game. But if you can change lives and change people's outcomes, then you should. And that's how I've always looked at it.
Well, so let's talk a little bit. I'm going to push a little bit. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because none of the partnerships or those things are easy, right? I mean, especially when you're trying to galvanize communities, people to move in directions. I'm sure you have to figure out how to deal with certain folks, how to get them to come on board, make sure that the goal's being accomplished, et cetera, right? Tell us a little bit about like what has been some of the challenges sometimes you saw in community partnerships, right? And number two, how did you navigate to still get to the goal, right? Because there's always, I used to be a superintendent, right? And I tell people that, they get caught up in the title and all that, but they had no idea, like you had to work with the board, you got to work with the community, you got to work with the staff, you got to work with this, you got to work with that, and there's all these pieces you're juggling, even if it was something as simple as giving a scholarship, right? Or dealing with people who have traditionals, whatever, right? So, like, what would you say to folks? Like, here's some things that I learned about how to manage or deal with people working through that. And here's the steps on how we still got to the goal. Because you've been successful at getting the goal done. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, I understand. I think, the right people, right? There was this effort that we took forward at the University of South Florida where we put together some community citizens and, a former athlete. Well, I guess a couple of them were athletes.
There are a couple athletes. A couple.
I think Andrew and Ed will claim that. But we put forth an effort to, we raised private funds. We raised enough to start a program that an outside foundation believed in what it was that we were doing. And then they made a contribution to an endowment that offered programming, scholarships, and improvements to all these students' lives, right? We saw an opportunity that was lacking. We got the right people to commit to the process. We got the right person in the background to develop things. And
he loves me.
And then we and then we continue, and we're watching students. We watch an increased graduation rate that's close to 100%. The only reason it wasn't 100% a couple of years ago because the guy transferred, right? But other than that, we're making a difference there. So we identified this issue. We had some problems up front because, and the problems are coming back, right? In reference to how we can give a scholarship to a certain group of people. But this program is called the Black Leadership Network, and it was funded and helped by us individually as well as the Helios Education Foundation. And we've thanked them and they thank us because it's an outstanding program. And, I may describe this as though let's look at it like a piece of, like a property, right? I'm the developer, but that lady sitting next to you was the architect.
Thanks.
And that I've always thanked her for it. I mean, she was very essential to having us get that program done. And, that's something that, we had to overcome because there was a problem in the beginning because we were having issues with whether or not we can have scholarships named after certain groups of people. In this case, Black folks. And that's come full circle because it's come back. But, we've got to deal with that. I think the next time I'm on the podcast, we'll talk about that again. How we overcame that one, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I think one of the things that, and Jerry's describing it well, right? There was an identified problem or challenge. And one of the things that had been going on for years across higher education and across education overall is that there is a challenge, but is how do we galvanize who the messenger needed to be? And I think identifying the challenge and then also identifying who the messenger could be to help architect and develop this program was essential. But one of the things that, Jerry, I think you were a instrumental leader in this was not only Jerry had to be the face, not because of his platform but he could talk across all areas to the folks who couldn't see the vision, right? Because at the institution that we were at, it's predominantly, now was minority majority, right? But at that moment, it wasn't. I think something that Jerry identified really early on, in which you talk about unlearning to then realize unlimited possibilities, is the way that we were trying to educate the college student then. He realized early on, and Jerry, you can talk a little bit about this, Jerry just didn't want to sign a check. Jerry was more like, I'm going to sign this check for the tuition, but what are we doing for these students? When they graduate, what are we doing? I think you were instrumental in that. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to terms with that? How did you envision that, yeah, the scholarship money is great. However, comma, we need more. Because you pushed that. That was your idea.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the data, right? That we know. We've seen that kids have come to school and they haven't gotten the jobs. Maybe they didn't finish it in 4 or 5 year periods. It's been 6 years. They were working while they were at school. They felt like they were all by themselves on a campus. They didn't have it's like, when you're in high school, you got your set group of friends and family members, and you walk to school together. Well, that's how we used to do, walk under the decks.
Sasha's walking is not happening.
You had a group and a community, right? And so part of the programming that we did within the Black Leadership Network is to make sure that these students had a community of their own, people to talk to, experience some of the same things they've gone through, and handle and ask questions. And so they always felt at home. And we found that that makes them happier. That keeps students where they are. That keeps them moving forward in a positive manner.
Yeah, and it bridges the community, right? Because to be able to create a program that was not only financially supporting the student, but we were emotionally and mentally supporting the student, we brought in the community to mentor, to serve as coaches to the students. So when you talk about how do we educate these kids differently so that they are prepared and see the different possibilities, that is a way of looking at how you approach community partnership as well.
So
we also took the students out into the community to mentor also. So it was a two-way thing.
Yeah.
So
that worked well.
So we're talking about the power of community partnerships, right? So the power, it seemed that you guys were able to figure out a way, regardless of the navigation you had to do from all the other spaces, on how to get the community more involved. What were the things that in terms of things that you saw that were kind of a breakthrough, right? And saying, hey, wait a minute, this actually works if we do this. What were some of those elements that you guys were able to see that really made it clear to you that this form of community partnership is effective in what you're doing?
Well, I watched the how the students reacted, how they bought off on this, and not just from a standpoint of them smiling and thanking us all the time, but their performance, both in classroom and both afterwards, the jobs that they got, the internships that they were working, the level of comfort that they had. I mean, students were able to, feel at ease with each other just because they were participating in this program. So when we hear that and we see that just kind of fuels things. Right? I mean, it's and really to go back a little bit, the school in itself, right? I mean, it's a problem. They've identified it, but either they don't have the resources or choose not to do anything about it. So that's why that community partnership from the outside has to come in and help work this along and do it with a handshake, right? Not go in there forcing the issue and picketing and doing this and that and so on and so forth, but do it with, here's the data, here's the problem, here's the issues, here's how we'd like to help get this solved. And guess what? We'll put our resources involved and we'll put our time and money and we'll help get this thing solved. And I think that kind of that really helped the community partnership aspect of things. So,
what I find crazy as I'm listening to this story is everybody believes that there's always this difference between K-12 and universities, but their dynamics, right, is a little bit similar, not as different as much. I mean, you have different stakeholders you have to manage, different political influences, but the elements are still the elements, right? For a strategy to work, to make sure that you're getting an initiative through, you still gotta galvanize resources, get people to buy in, engage in particular ways, talk to different folks, make sure there's a metrics. I mean, you go on and on. And I guess what I was really excited about when we were talking about to engage with you about, being a guest was like, we are always trying to push for the audience to know like what's the real deal, like what goes on in the background, because most people see it at the end, right? It's like you were a player, right? They had no clue about how much like weights you had to lift and managing coaches and I don't know the dynamic of that goes on in that world outside of watching the game on a Sunday, but the art world is no different, right? And people like, yeah, we're excited about these scholarships, but like what they don't know is like if they would have probably made certain things a little bit easier or would be more open to it, right? Some of these things, some of these challenges that we have would probably flow a whole lot better than all the complexities that we deal with. And so those are the things we've been trying to get out to our audience. Like it's so much more complicated. Listen to this approach, and here's the strategies you need to be thinking about.
There's always one of the things that when you said what goes behind closed doors, Jerry literally was in my office every day for the 4 years that I worked in. We literally worked together every day because we had to navigate the things behind closed doors and then figure out how to navigate it outside, right? But I think one of the things that resonates is, and Jerry, tell me if you agree or disagree on this, is people tend like to think, K through 12 is different. And then they graduate and they get to college and everything is fine. But when they get to college, we're technically receiving the students who perhaps haven't been prepared through that system. So now the problem is exacerbated, right? And now we have to figure out how to sort of, and you said this before, how do we support these young adults who now have been, we talked about this in a previous episode, who depending on their I think of one of our BLN scholars who was a Helio scholar, came in and we're interviewing him and he's like, oh yeah, I come from a family of 4. My dad is a quadriplegic and I want to be an engineer and my mom is ill, like terminally. And we're just looking at each other, but he was just sort of great GPA, but passed through the system and no one knew that until he got to us.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you got to realize that's his reality, right? And everybody has a particular story, right? A particular background that when you open your arms, you got to open them for everybody, not just, this person or that person. And I also think that, you talk about me being in your office all the time.
Every day.
Tell us how you really feel about that, Jerry.
We are best friends.
Here's how when you go fishing, you got a hook and a rod and a reel, and you throw it out there, and all of a sudden the fish bites it. Yeah, well, I was that fish, right? So it's a story. We were at the one of the scholarship presentations, and you invited me.
Talk about community partnerships. This is a great example.
Yeah.
Go.
You invited me to it, and so I go there, and at the scholarship presentation, they're presenting the scholarships for I think it was the Latino scholarship program. And I got there and, I was just after a busy day of work, I'm looking up there and I see like 100 chairs and I'm like, Luz, I'm not staying here to hear 100 people speak. Right? And she's like, nope. She says, those are the scholarship recipients. And I think I just sat there and didn't say much of anything. And I said, we need to do this.
Yep.
And Luz said, exactly. And I swear that's why she had me come.
Yeah.
I knew it was all in her thought and in the background. And so from there, we kind of built the Black Leadership Network. And that's where, it takes somebody to be the architect, right? It's going to take that. It's going to take a leader. It's going to take somebody with the passion to get these community partnerships going. And that just, you can't just leave that one person out there to do it themselves. Right?
So what
have to be
So Jerry, what would you say are non-negotiable elements that need to happen for a community partnership to work? What would be the non-negotiables?
Non-negotiable. Let's see. You have to, there's got to be a reality into what can be accomplished. There has to be a true effort. And I think it has to be an understanding that this is a problem that we want to fix, not something that well, so they're not getting educated. They'll just go do this and that, and they'll be fine just because that's the way it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from those lines, I mean, it's just the seriousness involved and the passion, maybe that you may want to say, the intent of groups. I mean, sometimes you have what's the term, tokenism, right? Where you've got folks that just show up and they want their name on that committee, but they don't push, they don't question, they don't ask, they don't contribute, they don't do anything along those lines to help push. Those are some things that I think that you can't do. You can't have a partnership if you're not honest, if you're not passionate about it, if you don't see the end result or want to see an end result.
Do you think there are problems that people don't want to fix? I mean, you talked about reality, true effort, and understanding. And so would you argue that there are problems that people see and they say, hey, I just don't want to solve that problem?
Jerry? Gerard?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure you guys don't get.
He's thinking.
Listen, let's talk about and I'll be good.
No, yeah, be real.
No, listen, you can speak your mind.
But you ask that question, and I say, look at the problems of the world. Right? You've got people, contributing to death and hunger, right? You've got folks not caring if people have hospitalization insurance or anything of this nature. You've got pulling away medicine from sick kids. You've got kids who are in this country, right? Kids who are in need of food to live and survive, being that removed from it. So when you say, is there ever a situation where people don't care? Yes. On a daily basis, So that's why the intent of the person of the community needs to be there, and it needs to be held, and needs to hold folks accountable too. There's that aspect of it too.
And do you believe that in order for communities to get better or to do things, it has to be internal with them and then reach out to folks, or do you think it has to be a catalyst of external to help them internally solve the problem?
So you know what? It was interesting because in the IT world, when we saw a problem, we always looked for an internal champion, right? A person in that department that says, yeah, I see this problem. I need this fixed. That would be your principal. That would be somebody on that side. That'd be the president of the university or your provost or something along those lines. It has to buy in, see the issue and want to work towards it. Maybe they don't do anything other than sit in the background and make sure that their people are working to get this done. But they're gonna have to buy into it and support it, or otherwise it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned while working alongside you was the non-negotiables that you shared, but also the investment that has to happen so that community partnerships are great, but also how we are investing that into the people we are trying to help, right? Because that's important. Because if you do something and it doesn't leave a lasting legacy, and it has nothing to do with just money, but if you do something and it doesn't teach others to lift as we climb, right? To ensure that we are leaving the world or the space better than it was when we walked into it, then what was the point, right? I also think what was important is really, frankly, you have to have someone who can be emotionally intelligent enough to also understand people's frustration, right? Like when we started having the discussions, and Edna Rain is a great example of this, is not everyone was happy about some of the ideas that we had and what we wanted to create.
And they weren't happy because
for so long, the community felt ignored, right? And whether that is true or false, right? People perceive their own reality. So we had to have a real conversation and really have someone like Jerry who can say, fantastic. And now 3 years from now, what's going to happen if your kid comes to the school and they're still facing the same issue, right? So you have to have the right person or the right mindset to walk in and set community partnerships that can see not only the vision, even when there is no data, because our partnership with Helios, there really was no data from the scholarship perspective. Like we had the data of how we can help, but we also had to set the vision and saying, hey, like you need to step out of your comfort zone, unlearn everything that you have been like.
And this was the foundation, folks should have said.
Oh, it's another foundation. I think you want to, maybe. No?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's really more about the people around it, right? Like we had to figure out how are we going to rally? And yes, two things can be true. Black and brown communities are oppressed every day. But also we at that point had a key to help solve a problem. So how do we work together to do that? Right. So
yeah, the more I hear about this, the reason I'm finding this so fascinating is there's always this conversation around, can communities help themselves or do they need an external catalyst to help them, right? And it almost sounds like you need almost both, depending on what the narrative has been in that community, how they've been oppressed, where they are in their life cycle. Because there's, you always hear people say, just, what's that term? There's a loose term, put your boots on and strap up the laces, whatever. I heard somebody say, well, you can put the boots on, but if you ain't got no laces, or you ain't got anybody to provide the laces, like you hear all this stuff. And I think about when you think about all of the education, when I look at my own education, right? I was fortunate to get a doctorate early and all that, and I didn't come from a whole lot. But I would tell folks it was my journey as I got to the next level. I started meeting certain people, right? Even, whether it was Kappa brothers or brothers who were successful, and they began to teach me how to navigate in a way. I call it the unspoken navigation, right? That I did not know, right? And there was no books that taught me that, right? And even in the success, right? We talk about this all the time. You still are navigating, right? Because you're never in this comfortable space, but it becomes kind of the norm for people who have been able to help communities do things. And so I bring that up to say is I find it fascinating because I don't know if there is a right or wrong way around this. Like, it sounds like you need some collective of engagement of external and internal to accomplish whatever you're doing. Am I right on that or wrong?
I would agree. And in most cases, but they could be done separately too. But I do think that, when you identify and find out where the problem is, that's on the inside. You need their help and you need them to participate and go from there. So. Well,
listen, we got two more questions and then and then we'll be done.
Do not charge me for those two questions.
Question number one was, I know you guys have done a lot for giving kids scholarships and those things. How has technology, AI, all that stuff have gotten you to think differently around helping the kids you support now to navigate to that space? Have y'all incorporated anything?
Oh, you tapped his little heart right there.
Well, no. I am nervous about AI.
Tell me more.
Only because, if you look at, you go on your screens and you look on, half the things you see is not true. Right? Half the things you see are made up or navigated. Here you see some Dodge truck going up a hill or something, right? Or you see, you hear people talking and they're not actually saying these, but half the people that watch them are believing it. And that is where I have an issue. It's almost like it should be against the law to lie like that versus being accepted. Now, in reference to using it for community partnerships and so on and so forth, delivering education, at the home, everybody seems to have a phone, and what they do is, they get access to the AI. Maybe you're able to transfer some education, some applications, some information, whatever it is that can be done and used with that. Maybe we could use it to identify certain areas of people that we can help, certain problems that exist, certain graduation rates, certain SAT scores. It should be easy as getting on your phone saying, what are the SAT scores of African-American students in 33543 area code? Boom, there it is, all right? And so I think the access to information, true or not, is a lot easier, faster, and easier to get to. So it could be helpful if that information is correct.
Well, and my last question to you is around what could you tell your older self that
your older self?
Well, not your older self, your younger self, from what you know now.
Can't get much of it.
Huh?
He can't get much older.
Can't get much older.
Yeah. I mean, you naturally look younger, but what could you tell? Like, what would be something you could tell yourself now when it came to like engaging with community partners and those things? Like, what would be something that you said, hey, I wish the younger Jerry would have knew this?
Just not to be afraid of things, right? I mean, show it. So here I am in an environment where I'm one of, I don't know, 3,000 people playing professional sports. But then you pull me out of that, and all of a sudden it's you feel kind of anxious, right? You feel kind of it's kind of like ask the questions, say the things, if something's bothering you or you're thinking about it, go ahead and figure that out, work through that, right? That's one thing I would tell myself. The other thing would be is to, and I've done a decent job with this, it's your self-confidence, right? Just as you talked about, as you got your PhD early and all, that wasn't because you weren't confident, right? You had some confidence in yourself that you can accumulate, you can access, you can achieve, you can do all of that. And I think that goes a long way, especially for those who may not have as much of everything else or may be struggling. But that self-confidence is, especially because, this world, they try to break you down.
Oh, yeah. Really absolutely.
And regardless of what you accomplish, there's going to be a story about how somebody just worked on your confidence.
That's right.
And so I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, Luce, anything you else got for Jerry?
I mean, first of all, I'm just grateful that you joined and got to share a little bit more. I know how invaluable our time together, and we spent every day together for 4 years. And now even just knowing that I can pick up the phone. You talk about partnerships and you talk about community. You and Ruth are the perfect example of that. I can pick up the phone at any time. I'm just grateful that you shared a little bit of your story. I think your story is fascinating because you really utilize your platform. He really doesn't think of himself as an NFL legend, but anyone who goes to, where's that restaurant? The Miller's Ale House on Fowler. There is a picture of him. I'm just grateful that you joined. You shared a little bit about the story, but also I'm thankful and grateful for the impact that you have had, not only on classmates of mine that we've learned that your initial scholarship actually supported one of our state attorneys get her degree, to the young kids now that are going to be able to say, my dad or my mom went to school because of a scholarship that Jerry and Ruth Bell established because of their community partnerships and their true belief in what we're doing. So I'm just grateful. I'm really grateful. And you already know I love you guys.
I love you too.
Well, Jay, any last thing you want to leave with us before I close this out?
No, this is good. I appreciate the opportunity. You guys sounds like a great podcast. I'll have to start listening to it.
well, you know what? We're going to bring you back for some more controversial stuff. Lucy's already gave me a list of stuff, so she told me to be nice on this one. So I said, not a problem. Nice. So break them in.
I'll have to wear the glasses in the back.
You have to wear the sweatshirt. Anyone listening to this podcast, Google Jerry Bell in 1993 USF scholarship so you can see the picture.
well,
if I come on again, we'll bring that out.
Yeah, and we get you to come in person too. Maybe we have you and Ruth coming in person. We'll talk about some different type of stuff.
Yes.
We can do that.
We love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's Jerry Bell. We appreciate you bringing your insights on how to have education and community partnerships happen beyond the school walls. Really excited about that. If you like the work that we're doing, please make sure you like, share, subscribe to our podcast, Unlearned Unlimited. We're on all the platforms. We're really excited about that. And if you have questions too that you didn't get answered, things that you're more interested, please put comments in the questions. We'll even go back and ask Jerry, what does he think about that? We're always trying to make sure that our guests are pretty connected to the community. It takes a lot of teamwork in doing this work, and that's pretty much it. You guys have a great night, and thanks for being on our show, Jerry.
Thank you.
All right.